So here is what overwhelm is actually costing you, not just as a leader or a high performer or someone that is a working professional, but also at home with the people that matter the most. It's slowing down your decision making because you can't think clearly. It's making you less present with the important conversations because your mind is elsewhere and you're coming home exhausted, not because of what you've accomplished, but from everything that you're still carrying around in your head. Think of it this way. It's like having 20 browser tabs open on your computer. Each one is using processing power, should I say, in the background, slowing everything down. And because you're intelligent, you're driven, and because you're in the position that you're in, you just keep adding more tabs, thinking you can handle it in your head. But what's actually happening is you feel scattered, exhausted, brain fog seeps in and becomes normal day-to-day activity. But also you feel closer and closer to burnout every day. Not because you can't do the work or you're weak, but because you're trying to hold on to too much input without having a strategic offload or a strategic output to help close some of those tabs. So in this training, in this episode, I'm going to explain a little bit more about overwhelm and also give you my cognitive optimization system, which will help, like I say, close some of those tabs. So let's get into it. Now, some of the things that I'm going to overview, if you like, is we're going to touch on the stress response because there is some links to stress and overwhelm. I think they're interlinked. And I think we have all gone through series of stages of overwhelm and it feels like stress. Your heart starts beating, your mind starts racing, and you have this sick feeling in your stomach. I'm then going to discuss the two types of overwhelm. And then, like I said, give you a system that you can take away and implement into your own daily or weekly battle rhythm so that you can actually regain some mental clarity. Now, if you remember from last week, if you watched last week, I shared more about how to combat stress as a reactive measure. Okay, so in the moment when you are stressed, what you can do. So if you are struggling with stress, I suggest you go back and look at that because there are some useful tips that you can use in your day-to-day battle with them. So just to recap, there are two sides to your stress system, if you like. You've got the parasympathetic, the pain, and the sympathetic, which is symp means stress. Sympathetic means stress. So that is the fight or flight, which most of us feel when we're overwhelmed. And then we've got the opposite side, the chilled, the zen side, the parasympathetic, which means peace. Now, the problem is, whilst you are in the sympathetic system, the fight or flight, what happens is blood gets diverted from your prefrontal cortex, the executive center, as people like to call it, and gets diverted to, excuse me, the amygdala. So trying to think your way out of overwhelm when you are in that stress state is extremely hard. Think about this. We can't be in growth mode and protection mode at the same time. So you can't come up with strategic plans, strategic thinking when you're basically trying to protect yourself. So if you're someone that is struggling with like the overwhelm in the moment, the first thing that you need to get to grips of when dealing with overwhelm is bring yourself back into that parasympathetic state so that you can think more clearer. Now, we all have capacity for stress. We all have an innate capacity to deal with different things that are going on in our life. That capacity depends on various different things. Workload is one of those things, but also sleep, your nutrition, and also work and life environments as well. It's very hard not to feel overwhelmed at work if you've got chaos at home and your mind's at home when you're trying to concentrate, and vice versa as well. But there comes a time where overwhelm starts creeping up, and because you've got those web browsing tabs still open and you're not doing anything to shut them down or to attack them, that capacity gets dwindled. It gets weakened. We've all heard of the analogy of my bucket is empty, or my bucket is too full, or my cup is too full. That is another sort of term for capacity. What we need to do is we need to put strategic holes in our cup or in our bucket to let the steam off. And that's where having a good stress management system comes into play as well. And you've all probably been there, close to burnout, or you've offloaded onto someone that you didn't really want to offload on because everything's just got too much and you just needed to let it out. Steam coming through their ears, pointing, shouting. And it's usually not at people at work, it's usually at your loved ones because they get the brunt of it, which is not cool. So there are two types of overwhelm. First one is legitimate overwhelm. And understanding the differences between this changes on how you respond to overwhelm. So legitimate overwhelm is when your life circumstances demand overwhelm from you. Maybe you're going through a major business transition, dealing with family crisis, or navigating a significant change in role. These are situations where the overwhelm is generally coming from external demands that are temporary, beyond normal capacity. So that capacity I was talking about before, these are injects, these are black swan events, these are chaos events that you cannot control. When that type of overwhelm comes, it's really about being honest with yourself and taking a step back and thinking, right, I've got far too much on my plate right now to deal with this. What do I need to take a back seat just for a short amount of time? While this time passes, then I can put the foot on the gas, if you like. Put your foot on your accelerator and get back into normal battle rhythm. However, most of us, and again, I'm saying most of you, I'm not saying that you listening to this is a different case, but most people, when they are struggling with overwhelm, it's because it's lifestyle overwhelm. That's when your whole life feels overwhelming because you are used to feeling overwhelmed and busy. And I get this all the time. Okay, I'm too busy to do this. It's like there is a massive difference between being busy and feeling busy and actually being productive. And I can say this because I am running 3 businesses at this minute in time. And again, I'm not here to try and impress you. I don't really care about that, but I'm trying to impress upon you that I get what being busy is. But there's always a technique, there's always a way of looking things that can help push forward if you do truly value something and want to go after it, which most people, when they say they are too busy to do something, they just don't value it. And that's cool. That's your model of the world. You crack on. People in lifestyle overwhelm tend to have these to-do lists everywhere. You've overcommitted yourself. You can never say no. And you're always last on the list. It's become like a vicious cycle where your whole life feels like overwhelm. And obviously, this comes into a little bit of people pleasing, not valuing yourself. But those are things that I haven't got time to go into in this one training, and they need to be separate trainings on their own. So, why does the difference matter? Well, I've already explained that both types require different approaches. With legitimate overwhelm, you need a bit of self-compassion and a bit of, taking a step back, and probably listening to the people around you that are saying that you need to take a step back, which I get it, right? It's easier said than done. You tell yourself that this is a temporary period of life and focus on protecting your energy to get through it. With the second type of overwhelm, you need different tools and different systems. You need a strategic offload for the amount of input that you have. You also need a filtration system for bullshit, for things that are not in line with your mission and values. And when I say mission and values, I don't just mean for your business, for your career. I also mean at home as well, because we each have a mission and purpose for different sectors of our life. So, moving on to the system that I created that I use with all my clients, which helps them get a bit of clarity. Because doing the same thing, swimming in the same direction as you've always swam, doing the same thing will only get you the same results, which for some of you is stress, overwhelm, burnout, weight gain, energy loss, sleep loss, relationship loss, which is not good. So hopefully what I'm going to share with you will not change your life, but give you a way out so that you can offload and actually take control back. Because a lot of the issues with overwhelm is that you don't feel like you are in control. Now, with legitimate overwhelm, your control has been taken away from you because of external events, should we say. But for those 90% of you that are stuck in lifestyle overwhelm, you are definitely in control. It just takes a little bit of reframing and sorting. And most importantly, for this to work, getting very, very clear on your mission and vision. There is a potential that some of you are addicted to stress. Your body's addicted to stress because you've been in this fight or flight state for so long that you enjoy doing what you're doing because it's known. You see, the mind and the body, because they are connected, they don't know the difference between good or bad. They just know survival. And what you've done up to now, because you are still alive, because you're watching this, that would really creep me out. So your actions, your behaviors keep you alive. Now, whether you want these action and behaviors and they fit in with your vision, your mission and purpose, that is a different story. And that is where behavior change and certain tactics come in. But there needs to be an awareness first, because some people that don't want to change won't change. We all know those people. The biggest change comes from pain. Because deep down, and this is going on a little bit of a tangent about human motivation, we're always either pulled towards pleasure or pushed away from pain. But we usually wait till we hit rock bottom, till our relationships are destroyed or our health is destroyed and we've got stroke, we've got type 2 diabetes, is then we change. What I try and do is get people to change in the positive frame, because that's always better. So once you've got your mission and vision aligned for each different area of your life that you need to use this system for, things then make a little bit more sense. So the cognitive optimization system is a 3-pillar system. Probably 4 if you want to include your mission and purpose, but you need to get your mission and purpose set before you get onto this 3 pillars. Otherwise, it's not going to make sense. First, offload. Now, part of Overwhelm is having poor mind management. We always try and do things in here because we don't need to have tools. We don't need to write things down. We've got it. That's cool when you're not stressed, when you haven't got 1,000,001 things going, and you're not living life at 1,000 miles per hour. We need some sort of cognitive offload from a psychological point. There's something therapeutic about getting everything onto a piece of paper that is causing you overwhelm, because you might be aware of something that is to do with work that's causing you overwhelm, but in that same instance, you've got the thought of, I need to take the kids swimming tonight. I've got to go here, 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 which is conflicting with your energy, your mental energy in your brain. So when you get everything off onto a piece of paper, it's like having a blank slate in your mind. Now, this is something that I do with my journal. Okay. Every single Sunday, I have a battle planning session. And then every single day, I have things that I need to get done. Okay. Which then comes on to the second pillar, which is priority. Now, if everything feels like a priority, then that's a massive red flag, combat indicator that you need to change something about how you actually live your life. Now, again, this will depend if you do this on a day-to-day basis. And I always like to go through the big 3. Okay, so what is the most important things that I need to get done today, this week, that will push the needle forward and give me a bit of mental clarity that I can woosah a little bit. Once you've done that, we then need to block. A lot of people make the cardinal mistake of just having a to-do list. That is a bit like procrastinating, because you're doing this and you're always adding to your to-do list. And let's face it, you only tick off the things that are easy and you want to get done, not necessarily what the hardest tasks are, the biggest needle movers that cost the most energy. You need to own your calendar as much as physically possible. Now, I get people watching this or listening to this will have different lifestyles. They will have different job roles. Some may be self-employed, some may be employed. So depending on what is required of you will depend on how much you can actually block out. For me, because I'm self-employed, and for most business owners, you are in control of your calendar to a certain extent. You need to own your calendar and protect your time like it's sacred, especially when you're working to your top 3 priorities. Blocking your calendar out allows you, and not just on your phone, but also on your work laptop, whatever you've got, so that your team can see that you are blocked out. It's also a good thing to communicate your team while I am in this stage. So whatever stage it is, 10 to 11, do not come to me unless like the world's burning down, because I need to get this done. What we also need to do as well, because there is decision fatigue as we go throughout the day, Your brain is a muscle and you will fatigue mentally. So shifting the most important tasks, the most cognitively heavy tasks, first thing in the morning when you're fresh is going to help you alleviate that decision fatigue. So offload, prioritize, block. Most importantly, when you block the time, take action on that specific task. Don't start wandering into emails. Don't start, thinking of different things. You've blocked that time for a specific reason. So act, even if you don't feel like it. Right? I do this all the time when I'm planning my social media. It's like, I don't really want to video myself on my reels or on my shorts, but I need to get it done because if I know I don't, when I've come back from the gym, my brain's going to be numb. So hopefully that has helped you guys. The cognitive optimization system is part of my elite performance protocol, my one-to-one coaching program. Now I have different systems depending on what is required to move the needle. So if you are someone that is stuck with overwhelm and you want to find out how I can help you move past and regain your mental clarity, send me a message and I'm happy to have a chill chat. Remember, knowledge isn't power. Application of knowledge is power. So don't just think, I know this. Most people know what to do. They just don't take action. And that's the biggest, most important thing, is to take action. Take control. Thank you very much for listening. And I will catch up with you next week where I'm going to share a little bit of how to actually switch off, because some of you are massively struggling with this, and actually regain presence with the ones that you care about the most. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you soon.